Most people assume that the smartest birds on Earth live somewhere remote, in rainforests, in research labs, in places you will never go. They are wrong. The most cognitively sophisticated birds studied by science are the ones outside your kitchen window right now. And researchers didn't expect this. For decades, ornithologists assumed that brain size determined intelligence, and backyard birds were simply too small to matter. Then the data came in. And it forced an uncomfortable rethinking of almost everything the field believed about animal cognition and who qualifies. Welcome to Feather Logic. Today we are asking why your backyard birds, the ones you see every morning, consistently outperform expectations. Higher on memory tests. Higher on problem-solving benchmarks. Higher on social intelligence measures. Higher, in several studies, than chimpanzees on specific cognitive tasks. Stay with me until the end, because the final finding changes what you understand about a bird looking directly at you. This is not a feel-good story about backyard wildlife. It is a peer-reviewed scientific case for why common birds are genuinely extraordinary. For most of the 20th century, scientists measured intelligence by brain-to-body ratio. Birds scored poorly on that scale. The conversation ended there. The problem was the measurement. Brain-to-body ratio reflects metabolic cost, not cognitive capacity. Researchers had been using, as one scientist described it, the wrong ruler. In 2016, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences presented a new way to measure what brains actually do. Instead of total brain size, they counted neurons, the actual processing units. In birds, those neurons are packed far more densely than in mammals. A crow brain, smaller than a walnut, contains more forebrain neurons than a mid-sized monkey. More processing power per gram than almost any mammal tested. But the crow is only one species in your yard. And it is not the only one that surprises researchers when experiments are designed correctly. The black-capped chickadee weighs 11 grams. Barely 4 pennies. And it possesses a memory system that researchers have spent 30 years failing to fully explain. Every autumn, a single chickadee caches up to 80,000 individual food items across hundreds of locations spread across several square miles of territory. It remembers each one. Not vaguely, specifically. Researchers from the University of Alberta confirmed chickadees recall cache locations with spatial precision after months of delay. To do this, the chickadee's hippocampus, the brain region governing spatial memory, expands every autumn, then contracts each spring. The brain literally rewires itself seasonally. No human brain does this. Ours is fixed. The bird at your feeder is running an adaptive neural architecture that neuroscientists still do not fully understand. Memory is only the beginning. The more researchers study backyard species, the more they find these birds are not just remembering. They are actively planning. Planning is considered a hallmark of advanced cognition. It requires the animal to mentally represent a future state and take action now to influence it. For a long time, scientists believed only humans and great apes could do this with any real sophistication. Then jays entered the picture. Nicola Clayton at Cambridge University ran a series of experiments on western scrub jays, a close relative of the blue jay in your yard. She discovered that scrub jays plan for specific future needs based on what they expect to want, not just what they want right now. When jays anticipated hunger in a specific location, they cached food there beforehand, preparing for a meal they hadn't yet needed. Anticipatory, not reactive behavior. This is not instinct. Instinct cannot account for location-specific anticipation. This is what cognitive scientists call mental time travel, projecting yourself into a future moment. Humans do this constantly. We call it planning. The blue jay in your oak tree was doing something functionally indistinguishable from what you did scheduling tomorrow's lunch. We are at the midpoint of this video. Memory and planning are established. What comes next is the finding that stops researchers completely every single time. Social intelligence. The ability to model another individual's mind, to understand what someone else knows, wants, and believes, was once considered uniquely human. Psychologists call this theory of mind. And for most of the 20th century, it was the defining cognitive boundary between humans and every other animal. Then researchers noticed something with jays. When hiding food while another bird watched, the jay behaved differently than when it cached alone. The difference was striking. It waits. It moves location. It creates decoy caches. Then it checks whether the observer is still watching before committing to the real hiding place. What this requires cognitively is the ability to model what the other bird sees and knows, to hold another mind's perspective inside your own mind simultaneously. That is theory of mind. A small wild bird demonstrating it spontaneously and untrained reshaped an entire field's assumptions about where intelligence begins and ends. But jays are corvids, the high-end cognitive family. What about the birds most people dismiss entirely? The small, ordinary ones. The ones everyone ignores. The house sparrow arrived in North America in 1851 and never left. For generations it was called a pest. Cognitively, nobody thought it worth studying seriously. That changed when researchers began testing how sparrows handled urban environments and discovered something that challenged a foundational assumption about how intelligence evolves. Urban sparrows outperform rural sparrows on problem-solving tasks, consistently, across multiple studies, across different continents. The city, it turns out, is a cognitive training ground. A study from McGill University showed urban sparrows solved novel food access puzzles significantly faster than their rural counterparts and persisted longer when the problem became more difficult. The researchers concluded that urban environments, unpredictable, novel, resource variable, actively select for greater cognitive flexibility. Living near humans makes these birds smarter. Measurably, testably smarter. Your yard is not just a feeding station. This research suggests it is an environment that has been shaping bird cognition across multiple bird generations. The birds at your feeder are not random. They are the ones who navigated your space successfully and returned. They passed a cognitive threshold you created without knowing it existed. But cognition is not just about solving puzzles. The deepest form of intelligence, the one that matters most in a social species, is communication. Researchers at Cornell Lab of Ornithology documented what they call heterospecific eavesdropping, the deliberate monitoring of other species' alarm calls to gather real-time environmental information. Your birds are not only listening to their own kind. They actively monitor every species around them, extracting information from a live multi-species communication network. When a blue jay screams hawk, every species present treats it as confirmed. No verification required. The jay's alarm functions as trusted currency across the entire yard. What this requires is cross-species learning. Each bird must have learned, through exposure and reinforcement, which signals from which species carry reliable information. That is not instinct. Instinct provides templates. The precision of multi-species signal interpretation is learned, updated, and apparently maintained across years of yard-specific experience. The yard you see as individual birds is, from inside the network, a continuously running information system. Every call is data. Every silence is equally data. The male cardinal song is recognized in yards across America. You have heard it thousands of times. Most people are never told what it is specifically doing. Cardinals know their neighbors' voices individually. When a cardinal hears a familiar neighbor singing from the expected direction, its threat response is low. It knows who belongs. When an unfamiliar voice comes from that direction, the response escalates immediately. Your cardinal is not reacting to a generic intruder. It recognizes a specific, unknown individual. They build individualized maps of who owns which acoustic territory and update those maps over time. This is sophisticated, maintained social knowledge in a bird-sized brain. If you are still here, what I am about to tell you will make you look at your yard differently for the rest of your life. The memory, the planning, the theory of mind, all background. The research on what these birds do specifically with you is the part that changes everything. Researchers at the University of Washington found that crows were responding not to humans in general, but to specific individuals, based on facial recognition alone. When researchers wore masks during crow captures, then walked the same area months later doing nothing threatening, the crows recognized the masks immediately and responded with alarm. Crows that had never been captured but wore those masks received identical treatment. The threatening face had been taught to the next generation. Individual recognition transmitted culturally. The crow at your fence is not seeing a human. It is seeing you, a specific cataloged individual whose reputation has already been discussed with others. The chickadee watching you from the branch 3 feet away has been accumulating a behavioral profile on you since the first morning you walked outside this season. It knows your schedule and movement speed. It knows whether the feeder refills reliably. You are a filed, assessed, and continuously updated variable in an active cognitive map. As long as you have had a yard, multiple species have been observing you. You assumed you were the observer. You were also, and always, the observed. Here is what separates backyard birds from most other tested species. Not brain size. Not puzzle speed. What they did with centuries of proximity to human beings. Most wild animals increase distance from humans over time. They retreat, avoid areas of high human density, and treat human presence as a permanent ambient threat. Backyard birds did the opposite. They moved closer. They tracked human behavior. They decoded human patterns. They incorporated human activity into their own survival architecture over generations. This is not slow geological adaptation. It is active, learned, generational positioning, a species-level decision to understand you, specifically, as both resource and variable to be managed. The data on urban bird intelligence suggests this process accelerated something. Living in human environments didn't just change where birds lived. It changed what birds could do. Studies comparing urban and rural populations of the same species repeatedly find urban birds solving novel problems faster, generalizing solutions more effectively, and abandoning failed strategies sooner. Urban birds became smarter because of you. You are the most unpredictable, cognitively demanding variable in the ecosystems they chose to inhabit. You were the selection pressure. You did not just attract birds. You selected for the ones intelligent enough to handle your unpredictability, your schedule, your presence. You were the test. They passed. Most people pause when they encounter this. Your backyard birds are smarter than most, not despite living near you, but measurably, directly, and increasingly because of you. The cognition we documented today, the memory, the planning, the theory of mind, was never about proving birds are clever. It was about something closer to home. Every species we covered today is common. Cardinal, chickadee, blue jay, crow, house sparrow. None of them rare. All of them already living in your yard right now. That is the part researchers keep returning to. The most cognitively remarkable birds on the continent are not exotic specimens. They are the ones you already overlook daily. You did not need a rare bird to witness extraordinary intelligence. You needed to look more closely at the ordinary ones already watching you back every single day. The next time a bird outside tilts its head toward you, that is not reflex. That is a small, fast, working mind assessing a known variable, you. You will not be able to unsee this. The quiet yard you walk through every morning was never quiet. It was always paying close attention to you. And somewhere in that attention, across years of mornings, you became something more specific than a stranger. You became a known, studied, and accepted presence. That is not sentiment. That is the documented result of sustained cognitive assessment by some of the most capable minds in the natural world. Tell me in the comments, which bird in your yard seems to watch you the closest, the one that never quite looks away when you're outside. I want to hear about it. I read every single one. These are the stories that stay with me longest, and they shape what we cover next. Thank you for being here at Feather Logic. Your yard is smarter than you knew, and so, it turns out, are you for noticing it. I'll see you in the next one.